Hello, mid-February 2026. Still here, still on Mother Earth, watching the planets as they appear to travel around us, reflecting back what's going on Mother Earth. We're living through exceptional times. Exceptional, rare, transitional changes going on for humanity and how we live on the planet. In 22-23, Saturn and Neptune both slowly entered Pisces, the sign that symbolizes health issues in our health systems, and the pandemic was involved, with the slow starting of the destruction and dissolution, the dissolving of all of our collective systems and structures. And this has been ongoing now, again, since 22-23. This Neptune conjunct Saturn drama that we've all been living through. Our collective systems, all of them, health systems, educational systems, justice systems, all our governmental systems that keep our societies running smoothly have been slowly dissolving and being dismantled. Now this Neptune conjunct Saturn energy is getting very strong, and it will be at peak energy at the end of this month, February, and through March. We will see the precise conjunction for just 3 days, the February the 28th and the 1st and the 2nd of March. Could be some crazy days there with unusual activity on the planet. But Neptune conjunct Saturn, and looking at its history, very worthwhile. Connected to peace and war. There are usually extreme wars going on when this happens, and often they come to an end, but we also see new wars beginning. When Saturn was in Aries, the Vietnam War was ongoing, and Saturn was transiting through the 4th house of the US of A, which is where it is again right now. And we saw a great deal of focus on peace, and half the population focused on war and going to war and functioning in a war efficiently, and other half of the population focused on trying to establish peace. Tremendous amounts of demonstrations and protests. I remember the 60s extremely well. The Vietnam War was going on, but we also had this other huge focus going on peace and demonstrations and demand for equality. Segregation was still happening in the 60s, and it was most ugly. Equality for women, women's rights, and we did not have as many as you are aware of we have now. I also remember that. We were fighting for the rights of everybody, of women, of anybody and everybody who was not white. It was a time of focus on the need and the urge towards peace and equality. Whereas we have the other half of humanity focused on conquest, on being stronger and having more than everyone else. The two sides of things. This Neptune conjunct Saturn energy is getting very strong, and when Neptune re-entered Aries, these two planets, Neptune and Saturn, entered Aries last year in 2025 briefly. When they were in the early stages of Aries, in June, they were conjunct, which is when the USA and Israel bombed the atomic facilities in Iran. Well, these two planets then retrograded back into Pisces, where they've been many months, and now they have both entered Aries again. Since Neptune entered Aries just a few weeks ago, we've seen Neptune things used for Aries purposes. War. Weapons of war. Neptune has been used. Neptune things. Oil, water, media, propaganda. These are all Neptune things. And they have consciously been used as weapons of war as this energy first enters Aries on this final entry. Now Saturn entered Aries 2 days ago. We will see what manifests now with Saturn in Aries. It's interesting to look at the history here, and Russia has an interesting history with the conjunction, not in the sign Aries, but just the conjunction between Neptune and Saturn, which is itself relatively rare. Neptune and Saturn, when they have been conjunct in the past, large transition takes place in Russia. We saw the Russian Revolution in 1917, when Saturn and Neptune were conjunct. We saw the Berlin Wall come down and the collapse of the Soviet Union in, when was that, 1989? And again, Saturn and Neptune were conjunct in the sign Capricorn at that time. Interesting, because Capricorn symbolizes walls and structures, and that's when that wall came down. But when Saturn and Neptune are conjunct, normally we see the end of wars, a focus on peace, a focus on ending existing wars. But with these two planets in Aries, we will probably be seeing more and more major focus on wars by one group of human beings, and another group of beings, more human beings, more and more and more, will be focused on peace. Interesting, the Buddhist monks, the 19 Buddhist monks that went on a peace walk, perfect timing with this Saturn-Neptune energy again, focusing on peace. We see something else ongoing at this time, this year, 2026, that is suggestive of peaceful spiritual energy being infused into the material world. The planets Pluto and Uranus were conjunct in the sign Virgo, but they were conjunct in the 1960s. And when the two planets that are transiting are conjunct, this is the beginning stage, the birth of an energy system between the two of them, involving the two of them, that will go through all of the sextile, the trine, the square, the opposition, and back to being the conjunction again. In the 60s, when there was such a focus on peace and war, when there was so much protest going on to end the war in Vietnam, this was also when Uranus and Pluto were conjunct. They were having their birth phase of an energy experience. So the focus on a rebirth, death and rebirth, blending Pluto energies with Uranian energies, which is revolution, equality, freedom issues being the focus. These two came together as a conjunction throughout the 60s. And it's taken all this time till now, 2026, for them to form a trine energy. And Uranus and Pluto, specifically in July of this year, but throughout much of this year, Uranus and Pluto will be trining each other, 120-degree trine. So we have the full development, the flowering, if you will, as to what was planted in terms of peace, and urge in humanity towards peace, towards Neptunian energy, the high side of Neptunian energy, the high side being the spiritual side, and away from the media and the misuse of media and the control of others, the scheming, the falseness. Again, all that seems to be so very evident and strong in society right now. But we're coming into a very exciting period here at the end of February, early March, with this Neptune-Saturn energy in a perfect, precise conjunction. And remember, Neptune and Saturn. Neptune is illusion, Saturn is reality. But on the other side, Neptune is spirit, and Saturn is matter, material, reality. And it's time for an infusion of spirituality into matter, and the planets line up hence. But at the end of February, coming up very, very quickly, it may be very challenging for many people. The Saturn-Neptune energy will be precise for the world, and we may see endings and beginnings in major wars and things. But in individual lives, we also have to take note that Mercury will be retrograde at the end of February. Mercury is retrograde at the same time period that all of this preciseness is taking place with Saturn and Neptune conjunct. Mercury retrograde, in fact, the last 3 days of February throughout the first half of March. Patience required with just regular communication issues when Mercury's retrograde. It challenges communication, human communication, and machinery of communication. So the internet is often not functional for some reason or other, or people's personal machinery, their computers and what have you. Mercury retrograde at the same time we have this precise and amazing conjunction of Neptune and Saturn. And at that exact same moment, transiting Mercury and transiting Uranus. Uranus, which is about to change from the end of Taurus to early Gemini this spring as well. There's a perfect square between Mercury and Uranus. Excuse me, Mars and Uranus. It's not Mercury, Mars. Mars. Planet of aggression is squaring Uranus, the planet of explosions, for simply a 3-day period again. The last day of February, the first 2 days of March. Those 3 days could be quite crazy. Now in Donald Trump's chart, we also have to take note, transiting Mars will be entering his 7th house on the last 3 days. Last day of February, first 2 days of March. These unusual 3 days I'm speaking of. Mars enters his house of open enemies and going externally, outwardly to war. He was born with Mars right on the ascending sign. These will be completely opposite. And transiting Uranus, will be squaring Mars. We have Uranus squaring Mars for the world. I don't know why I tried to stick Mercury in there. But it's Mars, this planet of aggression, this planet of assertiveness, this planet that rules Aries, which is so dominant in this period of time as it's coming towards us here. Mars will be squaring Uranus during those same 3-day period. And this forms a perfect T-square in Donald Trump's chart in those 3 days. So his behavior may be especially volatile there. And again, the initiation of wars as well as the ending of wars, there certainly should be some activity in that regard. Very interesting times. So Neptune and Saturn are finally perfectly conjunct at the end of the month. Again, something that hasn't happened for 6,000 years. Be aware and take care and be hopeful that this infusion of spirituality and focus on peace grows larger than it did in the 60s. Let it continue to grow. Take care.